live. I hope to be doing more of these as time goes on. But let's just get right into it. I'm going to just kind of get right into it, and then I'm gonna check a few things in a couple of moments. But let's just sort of get started. Kash Patel is an alcoholic, I think. The FBI director is according to The Atlantic, or reporting from The Atlantic, the FBI director may be too drunk and too unavailable to do his job. Now, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, certainly not me, but it does appear to be the case. That's one of the things we're going to go into today. Second thing I think we're going to cover today is obviously the latest Iran updates, which, surprise, surprise, is the village idiot Donald Trump lying about progress, just making up, deal agreements with the Iranians that the Iranians are refuting, that aren't just making up things that aren't true, just to obviously affect the markets, to try to will his his intentions upon these negotiations, to try to just make them happen the way he wants to have them happen magically. We'll get into that in a second. So let me bring up the Instagram. Let me bring up the Xenocracy live on Substack. Here we go, just so I can see everybody's comments. And let me get Instagram rolling too. It'll just take a moment. Live on Substack. Here we go. All right, so here we've got Xenocracy up. Let me just put this over here so I can hopefully see the comments. Oh, hang on before I put that over there. And let's go live on Instagram. Okay, and now we appear to be live on Instagram as well. Also, we're live on YouTube today, and I don't even remember where we're multi-streaming to. Let's take a look here. Instagram, Substack, and YouTube. So we're not live with Facebook today. No offense, Facebook. It's okay. So where do we start today, guys? Let's because I've been speaking extensively about the war in Iran. I'm actually so tired of talking about it at this point, but it doesn't mean we're not going to cover it. But there's got to be other news out there. There's got to be other things to focus on beside the war in Iran. And we had some very interesting reporting yesterday from The Atlantic, and that involves this man, Kash Patel. Now, I don't think it's going to be shocking, or I don't think it's going to be a surprise to any of you that Kash Patel is probably an alcoholic, that Kash Patel certainly likes to party, right? We saw that. We saw indications of both of that, and that Kash Patel is unprofessional and he's unfit for the job, right? We saw indications in real time of all of those things when Kash Patel took a taxpayer-funded trip to go to the Olympics and party with the gold medal winning American hockey team. Now, for whatever reason, the American hockey team has chosen to, the men's, I should say, American hockey team, the women's is not on the same page, but the men's American hockey team has chosen to defile its success and defile its brand, at least this incantation of it, the U.S. hockey team, with Donald Trump, with an idiot like Kash Patel, and with the Trump administration. I mean, I think for a hockey team, for any athlete in the Olympics, it's probably better to be apolitical in some capacity. But I guess I'm hypocritical when I say that, because I need to take that back, because if you had because this, we are in such a profane political situation right now. If and democracy is literally on the line, I wouldn't be complaining about a U.S. athlete that actually criticized Donald Trump. So I guess it's unfair if I complain about the hockey team loving Donald Trump. I just disagree with them. So I'll leave it at that. they have tied themselves to Donald Trump. They clearly, as a unit, as a community, the U.S. hockey team likes Donald Trump, loves Donald Trump, and clearly Kash Patel is, they love him too, because Kash Patel went to celebrate after the U.S. hockey team won the gold medal wonderfully. Kash Patel was recorded partying it up with the team, chugging a bottle of beer, screaming, going like this, "Roar! Roar!" Right? We all saw a moderately drunken, very excited Kash Patel in the locker room, hamming it up with the U.S. hockey team. And again, there would be who would care if he wasn't the FBI director. And I'm not hypocritical when I say that that's a disgrace. Even if he wasn't drunk and acting like a fucking idiot, it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace that an FBI director would behave in that manner. It's just not appropriate for someone in that position. And I don't think we've ever had an FBI director that has been that low class. But then again, we've never had an FBI director that has been this unfit for the job. And we've never had an FBI director, to my knowledge, at least since I've been paying attention to politics, we've certainly never had an FBI director who I think is a sociopath. So, those are all the things. So this, so the reason I bring that up though is it's clear, right? It's clear that with Kash Patel, he has a proclivity, and that was proof of that, for drinking and for partying it up. And this article goes into that, and it goes a bit deeper than that. The article really goes into, I believe, if I remember correctly, I'm not going to read the whole article. We're just going to read a few excerpts from it. But if I remember the piece, and I hope I can fact check myself in here. Please take this one with a grain of salt. But I think the Atlantic article suggests that they had conversations with at least 12 people who, within the FBI, who know Kash Patel, who were speaking on the condition of who are anonymous because they didn't want political backlash from speaking about Patel. But there is a tremendous amount of concern. On the one hand, from what I was getting from the article is that that his behavior is so erratic, and is so concerning that there is a genuine fear within many folks in the agency that the United States wouldn't be adequately prepared for, say, a terrorist attack, because he is often unavailable or inaccessible, because there's multiple instances where in the article where he was needed for various things, like things that were, I don't know, emergencies or immediate decisions needed to be made by the FBI director, but he was inaccessible because he was drunk and asleep and he couldn't get woken up, to the point where I can't even believe I'm saying this. I should have highlighted whether I really wanted to get on live early today, so I didn't highlight this, but I hope I can find it again. Where I think it was, he likes to go to Las Vegas and get drunk, where the FBI actually had to bring a SWAT team in to sort of, because they couldn't get into the hotel room or whatever room he was in because it was locked down. They couldn't wake him up. So they actually had to break the door down to get in there. Secondly, just before the village idiot Donald Trump initiated the batshit stupid war in Iran, Kash Patel fired a whole slew of counterterrorism, counterintelligence agents for whatever reason. These were the people who would keep us safe from, say, Iranian terrorist cells that were sleeper cells that were here in the United States, that once we attacked the Iranians deployed, right? But a whole bunch of them were fired just before the war broke out. So it's pretty crazy stuff. Let me just pop over to Substack here because I'm looking at both Substack and Instagram, but I can't look at them at the same time. Hey, Gamer Vet Dad. I can't quite see who else is here. We have a little bit of problem. Oh, looks like it's Kimmy. Hey, Gamer Vet Dad. Hey, Kimmy. How are you guys? So let me just read a couple of excerpts. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this Patel story because it's kind of just reporting. For me, it's really just reporting that seemed to validate what I already knew. It seemed to validate the fact that Cash Patel is nuts, and in addition to being nuts, he is very likely an alcoholic. In addition to being nuts and very likely an alcoholic, he's asleep at the wheel much of the time, and some of the time when he's not asleep at the wheel. When Patel is not asleep at the wheel, he is just not there. He just leaves, apparently. Patel he just goes away to wherever he wants to, and he just can be gone for days at a time. Maybe that's a good thing. On Friday, April 10th, as FBI Director Kash Patel was preparing to leave work for the weekend, he struggled to log into an internal computer system. Patel quickly became convinced that he had been locked out, and he panicked, frantically calling aides and allies to announce that he had been fired by the White House, according to 9 people familiar with the outreach. 2 of those people described his behavior as a freak out. So as far as back in April, Patel was panicking because he couldn't get in to, log in, and he thought that the village idiot Donald Trump had fired him. Now, he obviously didn't fire him, but Patel was completely, according to these folks, completely freaked out. Patel oversees an agency that employs roughly 38,000 people, including many who are trained to investigate and verify information that can be presented under oath in a court of law. No shit. News of his emotional outburst ricocheted through the bureau, prompting chatter among officials and, in some corners of the building, expressions of relief. The White House fielded calls from the bureau and from members of Congress asking who was in charge of the FBI. Now, it turned out the answer was still Patel. Patel was still running the show, right? The idiot hadn't fired him yet. But the access problem, according to this article, was apparently just a glitch. Who knows if that's true or not? Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe Patel was fired and then not fired, because it's not unusual that the village idiot is, you're fired, you're out of here, you're going to be gone, and then, one is not gone. So who the fuck knows in this chaotic administration? But Patel, according to multiple officials, as well as multiple current officials, as well as former officials who have stayed close to him, is deeply concerned that his job is in jeopardy. And then he goes into sort of what the author of this piece goes into about some of his reporting. And also in that little section there, I don't want to spend time trying to dig it out, but it talks about when the reporters for The Atlantic reached out to Patel and for comment, or reached out to the FBI. The FBI's response was something. Oh, here it is. So here was the FBI right here. Let me highlight this for you. The FBI's response was, print it. It's all false. I'll see you in court. Bring your checkbook. I mean, they're such dimwits, right? I mean, they're such asshats. Go ahead and print it. It's all false. We're going to see how that makes you feel. And bring your checkbook. We're going to kick your ass. I mean, it's so ridiculous. The IT lockout episode is emblematic of Patel's tumultuous tenure as director of the FBI. He is erratic, suspicious of others, and prone to jumping to conclusions before he has necessary evidence. That's because I believe Patel is mentally unstable. I felt that from long before this article came out. I think it's, his actions, his behaviors prior to ever being in the Trump administration, subsequently then being in the Trump administration, seem to indicate that he's mentally ill in some capacity. Not to the extent that Donald Trump is, but clearly, he's not just a conspiracy theorist. He's not just a sycophantic lover of Donald Trump, but clearly there is some sort of emotional deficiency that seems to make him predisposed to this kind of conspiratorial paranoia. And that, I think, can be said for many folks in the Trump administration, not just Patel. But you can see, if you compare and contrast crazies in the Trump administration, you've got Patel here, right? Let's say Patel and Pete Hegseth. I think Hegseth is more, your classic alcoholic, high functioning alcoholic, with, violent streaks and domestic abuse streaks, but he may not be mentally ill. But Patel is your, clearly, likely an alcoholic, probably not as high functioning. But I think, as an armchair psychiatrist that I'm not, I think he suffers from some sort of mental illness as well. And all of those, under normal circumstances, would be diseases that should never be stigmatized, but for the fact that these untreated diseases that these men and others suffer through are actually they're actually prerequisites to work in the Trump administration. They actually, where if you suffered from one of those diseases, I've talked about this on and on and on, but if you're suffering and you're in the throes of alcoholism, in that moment, until you get treatment and you move beyond that, you're unfit for, the job as FBI director for sure. If in Patel's case, like in Donald Trump's case, Trump's not an alcoholic, but the mental illness, the more severe mental illness part, which I think Patel suffers from some sort of paranoia or delusion. I'd love to, one day get a mental health professional on here to kind of go over what psychoanalyze these folks. But, again, the untreated mental illness, I think lends you to be unfit for the job. And I think that could be helped if it were treated. Gamer Vet Dad, let me just bring you over here so I can see your comment. And then we'll continue talking about this. FBI Director Kash Patel's communication strategist Eric Knight threatened legal action against The Atlantic on Friday night following their publication of a devastating report on Patel's alleged behavior and potential search to replace him, and everyone knows it. Oh, it wouldn't have been in the article. I didn't know that they actually threatened. Obviously here with the FBI responding, print it, all false. I'll see you in court. Bring your checkbook. That's a threat of legal action from the FBI. But thank you for the additional reporting on that, Gamer. It's interesting. It's interesting to know how they deal with this. Is how they deal with this kind of stuff. Anyway, let me continue on. I'm just going to read a little bit more of this, and we'll dig a little bit more into the story. They say the problems with his conduct go well beyond what has been previously known, and include both conspicuous inebriation and unexplained absences. His behavior has often alarmed officials at the FBI and the Department of Justice, even as he won support from the White House for his eager participation in Trump's effort to turn federal law enforcement against the president's perceived political enemies. Now, the article also goes into of the reasons why Patel is probably on the chopping block. One is, although the White House has supported him publicly, the village idiot Donald Trump is surely unhappy at this point with how successful Patel has been. And it's one of the reasons I think Pam Bondi is gone from the Justice Department, or will be gone soon. Donald Trump hasn't gotten any of his alleged, political enemies who have nonsensically been either indicted or investigated for pretend crimes because Donald doesn't like them. None of them have not a single one of those cases has gone beyond an indictment, and all of them have been thrown out of court, except I think the Bolton. I think the Bolton investigation is still ongoing. If I'm correct, I think that's one that hasn't been tossed out yet. Um, so that's one reason that Patel may be on thin ice, and the other reason is his drinking. The village idiot, for all his faults, and the village idiot Donald Trump is all faults. There's no good about him. But the one thing is he doesn't like drinking. I remember reading in Mary Trump's book, her first book, that her father, Trump's brother, died from alcohol addiction. The booze finally killed him after many, many years. And I guess Trump doesn't like that. I do. One of the few things I believe about the idiot is that he doesn't drink. Uh, and he doesn't like. There's been ample reporting that he disdains drinking. He disdains drunkenness. So Patel publicly drinking, I'm sure that didn't bode well for, if the idiot's already mad at him because Patel hasn't effectively investigated and made up crimes. For Trump's perceived, to get Trump's perceived enemies. If that hasn't been the case, I'm sorry, guys. I just want to hang on. I just lost my train of thought here. If that hasn't been the case, then you add the public drinking, and that's certainly something that's going to ruffle the idiot's feathers. Anyway, let me just get back to some of the some of the reporting that we're doing here. I just lost my place because I was moving my mouse and I kind of screwed it up. Oh, let me just pop ahead. Inside the FBI, which had been wounded by a number of scandals, many hoped that Patel could bring the Bureau a fresh start. We knew better than that. But even many of those who had been enthusiastic about his arrival have since been disappointed. Officials said that Patel has been an irregular presence at the FBI and in field offices, and that he has compounded the agency's existing bureaucratic bottlenecks. Several current and former officials told me that Patel is often away or unreachable, delaying time-sensitive decisions needed to advance investigations on several occasions. An official said Patel's delays resulted in normally unflappable agents, quote, losing their shit. Patel has also earned a reputation for acting impulsively. Who would have guessed it? During high-stakes investigations, he announced triumphantly on social media, for instance, that the FBI had detained a person of interest in a Brown University shooting in December. The person was soon released while agents continued to hunt for the killer. That was one of a couple of examples. I think we have several of them. During the shooting, if you guys recall, the shooting in Texas. I don't remember if it was Corpus Christi. I don't remember the town, but it was where a sniper shot and killed 3 migrants as those migrants were being led into by ICE agents into a detention center. And Patel tried to spin the story immediately within an hour by, first of all, showing us, posting pictures of evidence on X of bullets that were allegedly used in the shooting, saying that the shooter had engraved or somehow like sort of engraved into, or I can't think of the right word that I'm looking for, but etched into the bullets anti-ICE messages. I don't know if it was like said "fuck ICE" or whatever, but and then showed the pictures of those bullets, and he's so fucking crazy, and he might have been drunk at the time. It was obvious. We were live, real time, when that story broke. I still remember it like it was yesterday, and we looked at those pictures live because it happened. It just like within when he posted those pictures, we looked at them, and it was clear and obvious that they were written with a blue Sharpie. Right? It was, you could tell right away that these bullets, that these etched ramblings apparently from the crazed liberal maniac who just happened to, accidentally shoot three migrants from a rooftop, very far away, right? Just accidentally murdered the migrants and just didn't manage to hit the ICE agents that they were supposedly after. Um, Somehow, they had um, etched these, took the time to etch these messages into these bullets that was clearly written in blue, with a Sharpie, which is not etched. The article goes into the fact that there is speculation in that instance and in other instances that Patel might have actually been drunk. Well, and I didn't think of. Of all of the entertaining and amusing things that I think might have been the case when Kash Patel does the crazy shit that he does, uh, I didn't think that he was drunk. But now it makes perfect sense. And by the way, guys, I think this reporting is certainly accurate. I buy into the reporting, hook, line, and sinker. Um, but to make it further credible that Patel is, on Donald Trump's shit list, because everybody winds up on Donald Trump's shit list at one point or another. But to clarify that point, we haven't seen Patel. Patel is has loved in the beginning to prostitute himself in front of the cameras. Like Donald Trump, Patel wanted to be famous. He wanted to be a star, right? He was a podcaster prior to this. I guess I'm as much of a narcissist as he is. I like being in front of the camera on my lives, and I like video. I enjoy that. So I guess I'm trying to build my community as much as I can. So I guess I'd be hypocritical if I were to make the argument that, just because he's FBI director, and he loves to be in front of the camera, there's something wrong with him. But I'll do it anyway. There's something wrong with him because even James Comey, really until the 2016 election, when he fucked things up for Hillary exponentially days before the election, James Comey wasn't like obsessed with the camera, right? Christopher Wray, the subsequent FBI director after him, before Patel, wasn't obsessed with the camera. When Robert Mueller was FBI director years ago during the Bush administration, he wasn't obsessed with being on camera. I mean, you'll see an FBI director come on a decent one, a credible one, a one that's fit for office. You'll see them come on camera during perhaps a press conference with the attorney general when a big case is being cracked or something like that. But it's really a rarity, right, that they get on camera and make public appearances. But in the beginning of Kash Patel's tenure, he couldn't stay off camera. He was getting off on it. He was loving it. He was loving his fame, his fortune. It was a big fucking party for him. To be. Obviously, he was partying in terms of booze as well. But it was a big opportunity for him to be a movie star. And he's not been around. We haven't seen that dipshit in a long time, right? So, an obsessed wannabe pop star like Kash Patel being off camera for some reason for a while strikes me as indicative of the fact that he almost certainly is on the chopping block. Still, Patel's his fans. I don't care about that part of the article, to be honest with you. You can go back and read it for yourself. Patel's drinking is no secret. While on official travel we talked about this already, to Italy in February, he was filmed chugging beer with the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team following their gold medal victory. The incident prompted the president, who does not drink and whose brother died following a long struggle with alcoholism, to call the FBI to convey his unhappiness, according to officials familiar with the matter. But officials told me that Patel's alcohol use goes beyond the occasional beer. Uh, um, FBI officials and others in the administration have privately questioned whether alcohol played a role in instances in which he shared inaccurate information about active law enforcement investigations, including following the murder of Charlie Kirk. Remember because if you remember, it's not even funny because I don't like to laugh about an execution. I didn't like Charlie Kirk, but he sure as hell didn't deserve to die and be assassinated. So, but there there is an unintended comedy about Patel's. Remember at the end of it when Patel was like, "I'll see you in Valhalla, my brother," which we later learned was some sort of Viking Norse god kind of heaven for warriors or some shit. So, you know, and everybody was flummoxed, right, by that comment, including supporters of Patel. And, you know, maybe he was drunk, which would explain it, you know? Patel has held on to his job because of his commitment to using the federal government to target the political and personal adversaries of the idiot. We know that. Some at the FBI are concerned that Patel's behavior has left the country more vulnerable, which I alluded to that in the beginning of this. One former senior intelligence official told me that there's a lack of experience at FBI headquarters and that the turnover rate is high in field offices because of both voluntary departures and Patel-ordered purges. The result is an FBI workforce being asked to accomplish more with fewer resources and less direction from the top. Quote, the instinctive level of muscle memory or discernment that is necessary to identify and counter a terror attack is missing, the former official said. A current official described people inside the Bureau feeling besieged and disillusioned or even angry. And I think we don't even know. I think this reporting is probably the tip of the iceberg, and we probably won't find out until after this administration is gone. But I fear we don't even know the repercussions of this madness. I feel like we don't know how bad things are at the FBI. I feel that we don't know. We're going to find out later, after Trump is gone, when people are free to speak, whoever is left there, when whistleblowers will be safe to speak. I think after this administration, we are going to find out how stunningly fucked up things are in the FBI right now. And I hope and pray that when we hear about how fucked up they are, we'll breathe a sigh of relief in, how lucky we were that nothing horrific happened, because there was no one there to protect us. I hope that that's the case. I pray that that's the case. I pray that I'm wrong about this, because the implications are staggering. But I truly hope that things are not so much worse than I think they are, and that the bad guys don't really know how bad things are, and that they're not planning shit because they know that there's just the good people at the FBI, there's just not enough of them left to get the job done. And the incompetent dumb fucks at the FBI are asleep at the wheel, chugging fucking beer with a sycophantic, American hockey team. The other thing that I'm going to read about this in a second, but the other thing, in this article that I didn't know is Patel, like Pete Hegseth, wants to look tough. He wants to show everybody that he's got a really big dick, and that the FBI is tough and he's tough. So he's making an effort, apparently, to brand the FBI as tough, badasses, fierce. Patel has publicly proclaimed that the FBI needs to demonstrate that it is fierce. And officials I spoke with said that he's fixated on that image in private as well. He recently expressed frustration with the look of FBI merchandise, complaining that it isn't intimidating enough. Do you believe this fucking shit? FBI merchandise. Merchandise, if I read between the lines in that reporting, and I don't know if it was just a particular semantic choice, but merchandise is not, though he used, Jonathan Lemire used the term merchant. I think Jonathan Lemire is the author of this. I'll have to double check that, but use the term merchandise, um, which is not uniform, right? Which is not gear, I would think. So if Kash Patel is obsessed with merchandise, then I would assume it doesn't mean that he's obsessed with, when the FBI, you know, raids somewhere, right? Agents have their, those jackets on that just have in yellow writing. I think it's yellow, plain yellow text, FBI, right? And they have their hats on sometimes that says FBI, and that's their uniform. So if the reporter here is using the term merchandise the way I understand merch to be, it's the shit that we buy, right? You can go, if you go in New York City, and you go to any New York City souvenir shop for tourists, you can find NYPD hats, you can find FBI caps, right? You can find NYPD like jackets and FBI jackets. So again, I could be completely off base and not know what the fuck I'm talking about. It wouldn't be the first time, but if they're talking, if Kash Patel is talking about brand and merch, I think it means he's talking that he's obsessed with the shit that you and I can buy to like wear, right? To celebrate the FBI with our apparel decisions, right? And he wants that to look more fierce, more tough. So is he going to change the FBI logo to look tough and mean and fierce, on shit that we buy? Right? Or is he or does merch mean across the board? Are FBI agents going to have to look fierce and mean? Maybe he wants them, to look, like more like a, to use the term that we so consistently, use with ICE, to look more Gestapo-esque, right? So maybe he wants to put some lightning rods on the official FBI uniform with some sort of like badass fucking, monster truck looking FBI logo. I don't know, but apparently he's obsessed with this lunatic. So he recently expressed frustration with the look of FBI merchandise, complaining it isn't intimidating enough. Officials have grown accustomed to such behavior, and they have learned to roll their eyes at it. But they said the absurdity marks real concerns about what Patel's leadership has meant for the institution that the country relies on for national security and the safety of its citizens. Quote, "Part of me is glad he's wasting his time on bullshit because it's less dangerous for the rule of law for the American public," one official told me. "But it also means we don't have a real functioning FBI director," end quote. So I guess that's the best we can ask for, right? I guess maybe if there's, the name of this community is called Zenocracy, right? And if there's a Zen part of saving democracy, which was the intent of me creating the name Zenocracy, it's that we're going to be okay because they're all idiots, right? It's that we're going to be okay. Do what you need to do. Come here, go to my, attend these lives, meditate, vent, do whatever you need to do to sustain your mental health. But just remember, we're going to be okay. And I guess that's kind of the story there is, maybe all Patel's bullshit is helpful because it distracts him from interfering with the rule of law. Maybe. I don't know. Gamer Vet Dad, what do you got? One of those things to watch for was the absence from public eye. The more they take themselves out of the limelight, the more likely they are distancing themselves from Donald John James, Jesus Christ Trump. He's looking for an out. He thinks it's a marketing scheme. It's exactly right. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, yeah, Gamer. I think that's a great point. All right, my friends, I wanted to cover some of the Iran stuff, but I need to keep this live this morning. I'm trying to keep the lives short and tight. So I may squeeze in another live later today, and I'll be posting about some of the absurdities of Iran on my socials. Well, let me just, I just have a quick, if I can find it. I wrote a piece. Here's a, I'm starting to do some writing again. Here's a short piece on my Substack that I wrote in the middle of the night last night. Full disclosure, I write with the help of AI now because it just, I am a writer. I was a reporter for several years, and I can write articles, but I'm trying to work smarter, not harder. So I use ChatGPT and Perplexity to help draft my articles, and then I go through them again, and I sort of rewrite them and clean them up a little bit or edit them, and then I move them back into the AI, and I really get these tight, short articles, and I just love it. And it's, I've surrendered being a purist at writing because this is way more efficient, and the writing is so much better. So basically, the short version of the story is Donald Trump told us yesterday that it was a fantastic deal. The Straits of Hormuz are opened. The Iranians will never, they're never going to close it. They're never going to close it again. It's never going to happen. They'll always be opened. And other types of bullshit about how well the deal was going. It was all nonsense. The Iranians came out, refuted every bit of it. And I think the idiot said that there was going to be mutual control of the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians basically came out later last night and said, fuck that. That's all bullshit. None of that is true. There has been no agreement. We are nowhere near an agreement. Messages are being sent through the Pakistanis. We appreciate the Pakistanis' efforts to engage in these negotiations. The idiot had also said the evening, when he was lying about the negotiations, that the Strait of Hormuz is completely open, but he's going to keep the naval blockade on Iranian ports. Now, the village idiot can't remember from one day to the other what he's actually blockading. Sometimes he remembers that it's a blockade on Iranian ports, and sometimes he forgets and thinks that it's the United States that's blockading the Strait of Hormuz and not the Iranians. So he's fairly inconsistent with his messaging on that, because I don't think he remembers that or knows the difference. But irrespective, the Iranians came out, refuted all of those claims. This morning, there was some reporting that the Iranians are going to close the Strait of Hormuz again. So if you were getting excited, because their argument was, because we're negotiating but not negotiating with this idiot, and if this idiot expects us to open the strait completely to commercial traffic like we did yesterday, like we said we would, but then he's going to make the argument that he's going to continue to blockade our ports. In essence, that's nonsensical. And we're going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz again, which apparently they're doing. So if you were excited, as I was, or at least a little bit relieved, thank God the killing is done. I wish this whole fucking stupid war would end, but at least the killing in Iran and Lebanon has stopped for the moment, and let's pray that remains the case. The hope that our gasoline prices at the pump was going to decline exponentially may be a shattered pipe dream for now, because with Trump negotiating through imaginary deals that aren't real, trying to will his deal-making genius upon the situation, the Iranians, that isn't working. And so unfortunately, if Iran closes up the strait today, like they say they're going to do, you're not going to see any fluctuation from gas prices. All you're going to see is the markets react. All you're going to see is the commodities market shift again. And I think, I don't know if the price of oil is at 85 or $90, it'll bounce back up to 110 or 105 or 90 or whatever the hell. And you'll see the stock market dip again. It's just an emotional roller coaster on the stock market. And I think the oil prices will kind of stay set because they might have declined by a couple of cents but after the Village Idiot nonsensically told us how great the negotiations were going, and then after the Iranians actually told us yesterday that they were going to open the Strait of Hormuz, the price of oil thankfully dropped by like 10 to 15%, but it wasn't quick enough for us to see that at the pump. And so everything I think I guess, I mean, I'm a pretend, economist, and I'm cosplaying one right now for you, but watching how the economy is being affected by this war, I think we can all speculate what's going to happen. I can't imagine oil prices will spike again unless the war starts again. It seems like they're set at those $100 a barrel levels, and we're just going to see the commodities market kind of jerk around and the stock market jerk around, which will make commodities traders really rich and make big stock traders really rich who are trading the oil patch. But for the rest of us, we just have to contend with consistently high gas prices. Anyway, point is, please check out my article at Xenocracy.news. I'm writing more of them now. If you're here on one of our other socials, if you're here on Instagram or YouTube, please consider coming over to Xenocracy as well. It's at Xenocracy.news on Substack. Please subscribe. You'll get these lives. You'll get exclusive access to all of my interviews. I do the interviews live or recorded on Substack only. And then they kind of rest. The recordings rest on Substack, and then some days later I do put them on YouTube. But Xenocracy is our home, it's our primary headquarters for my work, and you can come over there. You can subscribe for free if you are currently a free subscriber. Or if you're coming over and you want to support my work, please consider a paid subscription if that's something that's doable and comfortable. Either way, just please come and join these communities. I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap the live right now. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. That's how we get through this crazy fucking administration. We just keep chunking through it day by day. We're heading toward a year and a half in now. I don't think most of us thought we would make it this far. The midterms are looking good. There will be some guardrails come next January on the Village Idiot Donald Trump if we make it that far. And we just keep coming together, doing this group therapy. And that's how we survive this madness and we get through these 4 years. I love you guys. Watch for me on the other socials today. I'm going to wrap Instagram first because that's kind of the way my software requires that I do, and then we'll take YouTube out of it if I can actually move this window over. There we go. All right, Instagram, love you guys. Thank you for being here. I'll see you again soon. Okay, and Instagram has left the building, my friends, and now let's wrap up. Oh, so GamerVet Dad, his last appearance was 3/18. I didn't see that comment. So that was GamerVet Dad is commenting on Kash Patel.